like I know now that I'm going to keep doing it forever. Because before Neuralink, I was doing it every day and I was just assuming that
Right.
things were happening. Like it's not like I knew. I wasn't getting back any mobility or sensation or anything. So I could have been running up against a brick wall for all I knew.
Hmm.
And with Neuralink, I get to see like all the signals happening real time. And uh, I get to see that, what I'm doing can actually be mapped. When we started doing like click calibrations and stuff, when I go to click my index finger for a left click, that it actually recognizes that. Like it changed how I think about what's possible with like retraining my body to move. And so yeah, I'll never give up
And
now.
also just the signal that there's still a powerhouse of a
Yeah.
brain there that's
Hmm.
like,
Exactly.
that's, and as the technology develops, that brain is, I mean, that's the most important thing about the human body is the brain, and it can do a lot of the control. So, what did it feel like when you first could wiggle the index finger and saw the environment respond, like that little
Yeah. It
thing,
was
or
very
ever just being way too dramatic, according to you?
Yeah, it was very cool. I mean, it was cool, but I keep telling this to people. It made sense to me. Like it made sense that, like there are signals still happening in my brain and that as long as you had something near it that could measure those, that could record those, then you should be able to like visualize it in some way, like see it happen. And so that was not very surprising to me. I was just like, "Oh, cool. Like we found one. Like we found something that works." It was cool to see that their technology worked, and that everything that they'd worked so hard for was like going to pay off. But I hadn't like moved a cursor or anything at that point. I had like interacted with a computer or anything at that point. So it just made sense. It was cool. Like I didn't really know much about BCI at that point either. So I didn't know like what sort of step this was actually making. Like I didn't know if this was like a huge deal or if this was just like, okay, this is, it's cool that we got this far, but we're actually hoping for something like much better down the road. It's like, okay, I just thought that they knew that it turned on. So I was like, cool. Like this is cool.
Well, did you like read up on the specs of the hardware you get installed, like the number of threads, all
Yeah,
this kind
yeah,
of
I knew
stuff?
all of that,
Okay.
but it's all Greek to me. Like, I was like, okay, threads, 64 threads, 16 electrodes, 1024 channels. Okay. like like that math checks out.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
When was the first time you were able to move a mouse cursor?
I know it must have been within the first maybe week, a week or 2 weeks that I was able to like first move the cursor. And again, like it kind of made sense to me. Like it didn't seem like that big of a deal. Like it was like, okay, well, how do I explain this? When everyone around you starts clapping for something that you've done,
Yeah.
it's easy to say, okay, like I did something cool.
Yeah.
Like that was impressive in some way. What exactly that meant, what it was, hadn't really like mm, set in for me. So again, I knew that me trying to move a body part, and then that being mapped in some sort of like machine learning algorithm to be able to identify like my brain signals and then take that and give me cursor control. That all kind of made sense to me. I don't know like all the ins and outs of it, but I was like, there are still signals in my brain firing. They just can't get through because there's like a gap in my spinal cord. And so they can't get all the way down and back up, but they're still there. So when I moved the cursor for the first time, I was like, that's cool, but I expected that that should happen. Like it made sense to me. When I moved the cursor for the first time, with just my mind without like physically trying to move. So I guess I can get into that just a little bit, like the difference between attempted movement and imagined movement.
Yeah, that's a fascinating difference. Speak
Yeah,
from one to the other.
yeah. So like attempted movement is me physically trying to attempt to move, say, my hand. I try to attempt to move my hand to the right, to the left, forward, and back. and that's all attempted. Attempt to, like lift my finger up and down, attempt to kick or something. I'm physically trying to do all of those things, even if you can't see it. Like this would be like me attempting to like shrug my shoulders or something. That's all attempted movement. Um, that all that's what I was doing for the first couple of weeks when they were going to give me cursor control. When I was doing body mapping, it was attempt to do this, attempt to do that. When Near was telling me to like imagine doing it, it like kind of made sense to me, but it's not something that people practice. Like if you started school as a child and they said, okay, write your name with this pencil. And so you do that. Like, okay, now imagine writing your name with that pencil. Kids would think, like, I guess, like that kind of makes sense. And they would do it. But that's not something we're taught. It's all like how to do things physically. We think about like thought experiments and things, but that's not like a physical action of doing things. It's more like what you would do in certain situations. So imagine movement, it never really connected with me. Like I guess you could maybe describe it as like a professional athlete, like has swinging a baseball bat or swinging like a golf club. Like imagine what you're supposed to do, but then you go right to that and physically do it. Like then you get a bat in your hand and then you do what you've been imagining. And so I don't have that like connection. So telling me to imagine something versus attempting it, there wasn't a lot that I could do there mentally. I just kind of had to accept what was going on and try. Um, but the attempted moving thing, it all made sense to me. Like if I try to move, then there's a signal being sent in my brain. And as long as they can pick that up, then they should be able to map it to what I'm trying to do. And so when I first moved the cursor like that, it was just like, yes, this should happen. Like I'm not surprised by that.
But can you clarify, is there supposed to be a difference between imagined movement and attempted movement?
Yeah, just that in imagined movement, you're not attempting to move at all. So it's
You're like visualizing yourself doing it, and then theoretically, is that supposed to be a different part of the brain that lights up in those two different situations?
Yeah, not necessarily. I think all these signals can still be represented in motor cortex, but the difference I think has to do with the naturalness of imagining something versus
Got it.
attempting it, and sort of the fatigue of that over time.
And by the way, on the mic is Bliss. So like this is just different ways to prompt you to kind of get to the thing that you arrived at.
Yeah.
Attempted movement does sound like the right thing to try.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me.
Because imagine for me, I would start visualizing, like in my mind, visualizing. Attempted, I would actually start trying to like.
Yeah.
I did like combat sports my whole life, like wrestling. When I'm imagining a move, I'm like moving my muscle.
Exactly.
Like there is a bit of an activation almost versus like visualizing yourself like a picture doing it.
Yeah, it's something that I feel like naturally anyone would do. Mm-hmm. If you try to tell someone to imagine doing something, they might close their eyes and then start physically doing it. But it's just
it didn't click.
Yeah, it's hard. It was very hard at the beginning.
But attempted worked.
Attempted worked. It worked just like it should work like a charm.
I remember there was like one Tuesday we were messing around, and I forget what swear word you used, but there's a swear word that came out of your mouth when you figured out you could just do the direct cursor control.
Yeah, that's it. It blew my mind. Like no pun intended. Blew my mind when I first moved the cursor just with my thoughts and not attempting to move. It's something that I found like over the couple of weeks, like building up to that, that as I get better cursor controls, like the model gets better, then it gets easier for me to like I don't have to attempt as much to move it. And part of that is something that I'd even talked with them about when I was watching the signals of my brain one day. I was watching when I like attempted to move to the right and I watched the screen as like I saw the spikes. like I was seeing the spike, the signal was being sent before I was actually attempting to move. I imagine just because, when you go to say move your hand or any body part, that signal gets sent before you're actually moving, has to make it all the way down and back up before you actually do any sort of movement. So there's a delay there. And I noticed that there was something going on in my brain before I was actually attempting to move, that my brain was like anticipating what I wanted to do. And that all started sort of, um, I don't know, like percolating in my brain. Like it was just sort of there, like always in the back. Like, that's so weird that it could do that. It kind of makes sense, but I wonder what that means, as far as like using the Neuralink. And, and then as I was playing around with the attempted movement and playing around with the cursor, and I saw that like as the cursor control got better, that it was anticipating my movements, and what I wanted it to do, like cursor movements, what I wanted it to do a bit better and a bit better. And then one day I just randomly, as I was playing WebGrid, I like looked at a target before I had started like attempting to move. I was just trying to like get over, like train my eyes to start looking ahead, like, okay, this is the target I'm on, but if I look over here to this target,
Yeah.
I know I can like maybe be a bit quicker getting there. And I looked over and the cursor just shot over. It it was wild. Like I had to take a step back. Like I was like, this should not be happening. All day I was just smiling. I was so giddy. I was like, guys, do you know that this works? Like I can just think it and it happens. Which like they'd all been saying this entire time. Like, I can't believe like you're doing all this with your mind. I'm like, yeah, but is it really with my mind? Like I'm attempting to move and it's just picking that up. So it doesn't feel like it's with my mind. But when I moved it for the first time like that, it was, oh man, it made me think that this technology, that what I'm doing is actually way more impressive than I ever thought. It was way cooler than I ever thought. And it just opened up a whole new world of possibilities of like what could possibly happen with this technology and what I might be able to be capable of with it.
Because you had felt for the first time like this was digital telepathy, like
Yeah.
you're controlling a digital device with your mind.
Yep.
I mean, that's a real moment of discovery. That's really cool. Like you've discovered something. I've seen like scientists talk about like a big aha moment, like Nobel Prize winning. They'll have this like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what that's what it felt like. Like I didn't feel like I felt like I had discovered something, but for me, maybe not necessarily for like the world at large or like this field at large. It just felt like an aha moment for me. Like, oh, this works. Like obviously it works. And so that's what I do like all the time now. I kind of intermix the attempted movement and imagined movement. I do it all like together because I've found that there is some interplay with it that maximizes efficiency with the cursor. So it's not all like one or the other. It's not all just I only use attempted or I only use like imagined movements. It's more I use them in parallel, and I can do one or the other. I can just completely think about whatever I'm doing, but I don't know. I like to play around with it. I also like to just experiment with these things. Like every now and again, I'll get this idea in my head, like, I wonder if this works. And I'll just start doing it. And then afterwards, I'll tell them, by the way, I wasn't doing that like you guys wanted me to. I thought of something and I wanted to try it. And so I did. It seems like it works. So maybe we should like explore that a little bit.
So I think that discovery is not just for you, at least from my perspective. That's a discovery for everyone else who ever uses a Neuralink, that this is possible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's an obvious thing that this is even possible. It's like, I was saying to Bliss earlier, it's like the 4-minute mile. People thought it was impossible to run a mile in 4 minutes. And once the first person did it, then everyone just started doing it. So like, just to show that it's possible, that paves the way to like anyone can now do it. That's a thing that's actually possible. You don't need to do the attempted movement. You can just go direct.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. Yeah.
For people who don't know, can you explain how the Link app works? You have an amazing stream on the topic. Your first stream, I think, on X, describing the app. Can you just describe how it works?
Yeah, so it's just an app that Neuralink created um, to help me interact with the computer. So on the Link app, there are a few different settings and different modes and things I can do on it. So there's like the body mapping, which we kind of touched on. There's a calibration. Calibration is how I actually get cursor control. So calibrating what's going on in my brain to translate that into cursor control. So it will pop out um, models. What they use, I think, is like time. So it would be 5 minutes in calibration will give me so good of a model, and then if I'm in it for 10 minutes and 15 minutes, the models will progressively get better. And so the longer I'm in it, generally the better the models will get.
That's really cool because you often refer to the models.
Yeah.
So the model is the thing that's constructed once you go through the calibration step.
Yeah.
And then you also talked about sometimes you'll play like a really difficult game like Snake just to see how good the model is.
Yeah. So Snake is kind of like my litmus test for models. If I can control Snake decently well, then I know I have a pretty good model. So yeah, the Link app has all of those. It has WebGrid in it now. It's also how I like connect to the computer just in general. So they've given me a lot of like voice controls with it at this point. So I can, say like connect or implant disconnect. And as long as I have that charger handy, then I can connect to it. So the charger is also how I connect to the Link app to connect to the computer. I have to have the implant charger over my head when I want to connect to have it wake up because the implant's in hibernation mode, like always when I'm not using it. I think there's a setting to like wake it up every, so long. So we could set it to half an hour or 5 hours or something if I just want it to wake up periodically. So yeah, I'll like connect to the Link app and then go through all sorts of things, calibration for the day, maybe body mapping. I made them give me like a little homework tab, because I am very forgetful and I forget to do things a lot. So I have like a lot of data collection things, that they want me to do.
Is the body mapping part of the data collection or is that also part of the calibration?
Yeah, it is. It's something that they want me to do daily, which I've been slacking on because I've been doing so much media and traveling and so much. So I've been
super famous.
Yeah, I've been a terrible first candidate for how much I've been slacking on my homework. But yeah, it's just something that they want me to do every day to, track how well the Neuralink is performing over time and have something to give. I imagine to give to the FDA to, create all sorts of fancy charts and stuff and show like, hey, this is what the Neuralink, this is how it's performing, day 1 versus day 90 versus day 180 and things like that.
What's the calibration step like? Is it like move left, move right?
It's a bubble game. So there will be like yellow bubbles that pop up on the screen. At first, it is open loop. So open loop, this is something that I still don't fully understand, the open loop and closed loop thing.
Me and Blitz talked for a long time about the difference between the two on the technical side.
Okay.
So it'd be great to hear your side of the story.
Open loop is basically, I have no control over the cursor. The cursor will be moving on its own across the screen, and I am following by intention the cursor to different bubbles, and then the algorithm is training off of what like the signals it's getting are as I'm doing this. There are a couple different ways that they've done it. They call it center out target. So there will be a bubble in the middle and then 8 bubbles around that, and the cursor will go from the middle to one side. So say middle to left, back to middle to up to middle, like up right, and they'll do that all the way around the circle, and I will follow that cursor the whole time, and then it will train off of my intentions what it is expecting my intentions to be throughout the whole process.
Can you actually speak to when you say follow.
Yes.
You don't mean with your eyes, you mean with your intentions.
Yeah. So generally for calibration, I'm doing attempted movements because I think it works better. I think the better models as I progress through calibration make it easier to use imagine movements.
Wait. So calibrated on attempted movement will create a model that makes it really effective for you to then use the force.
Yes. I've tried doing calibration with imagined movement, and it just doesn't work as well for some reason. So that was the center out targets. There's also one where, a random target will pop up on the screen and it's the same. I just like move, I follow along with wherever the cursor is to that target all across the screen. I've tried those with imagined movement, and for some reason the models just don't um, they don't give as high level as quality when we get into closed loop. I haven't played around with it a ton, so maybe like the different ways that we're doing calibration now might make it a bit better. But what I've found is there will be a point in calibration where I can use imagine movement. Before that point, it doesn't really work. So if I do calibration for 45 minutes, the first 15 minutes, I can't use imagine movement. It just like doesn't work for some reason. And after a certain point, I can just sort of feel it. I can tell it moves different. That's the best way I can describe it. Like it's almost as if it is anticipating what I am going to do again before I go to do it. And so using attempted movement for 15 minutes, at some point I can kind of tell when I like move my eyes to the next target that the cursor is starting to like pick up, like it's starting to understand, it's learning like what I'm going to do.
So first of all, it's really cool that, I mean, you are a true pioneer in all of this. You're like exploring how to do every aspect of this most effectively. And there's just, I imagine so many lessons learned from this. So thank you for being a pioneer in all these kinds of different, like super technical ways. And it's also cool to hear that there's like a different like feeling to the experience when it's calibrated in different ways. Like just because I imagine your brain is doing something different. And that's why there's a different feeling to it. And then trying to find the words and the measurements to those feelings would be also interesting. But at the end of the day, you can also measure your actual performance on whether it's Snake or WebGrid. You can see like what actually works well. And you're saying for the open loop calibration, the attempted movement works best for now.
Yep.
So the open loop, you don't get the feedback that you did something.
Yeah,
Is that frustrating? Or?
No, it makes sense to me. Like we've done it with a cursor and without a cursor in open loop. So sometimes it's just say for like the center out, the you'll start calibration with a bubble lighting up, and I push towards that bubble, and then when that bubble, when it's pushed towards that bubble for say 3 seconds, a bubble will pop, and then I come back to the middle. So I'm doing it all just by my intentions. Like that's what it's learning anyway. So it makes sense that as long as I follow what they want me to do, like follow the yellow brick road, that it'll all work out.
You're full of great references. Is the bubble game fun? Like,
yeah, they always feel so bad making me do calibration. Like, oh, we're about to do, a 40-minute calibration. I'm like, all right, like, do you guys want to do 2 of them? Like I'm always asking to like whatever they need, I'm more than happy to do. And it's not bad. Like I get to lie there and, or sit in my chair and like do these things with some great people. I get to have great conversations. I can give them feedback. I can talk about all sorts of things. I could throw something on my TV in the background and kind of like split my attention between them. Like it's not bad at all. I don't
Is there a
mind it.
score that you get? Like, can you do better on the bubble game?
No, I would love that. I would love,
Writing
love to
down
play.
suggestions from Nolan.
That's
Make it more fun, gamified.
yeah, that's one thing that I really, really enjoy about WebGrid
Yeah.
is because I'm so competitive. Like the higher the BPS, the higher the score, I know the better I'm doing. And so if I think I've asked at one point one of the guys, like if he could give me some sort of numerical feedback for calibration, like I would like to know what they're looking at. Like, oh, it is, we see like this number while you're doing calibration. And that means, at least on our end, that we think calibration is going well. Um, and I would love that because I would like to know if what I'm doing is going well or not. But then they've also told me like, yeah, not necessarily like 1-to-1. It doesn't actually mean that calibration is going well in some ways. So it's not like 100%, and they don't want to like skew what I'm experiencing or want me to change things based on that if that number isn't always accurate to like how the model will turn out or how like the end result. That's at least what I got from it. One thing I have asked them, and something that I really enjoy striving for, is towards the end of calibration, there is like a time between targets. And so I like to keep like at the end, that number as low as possible. So at the beginning, it can be, 4, 5, 6 seconds between me popping bubbles. But towards the end, I like to keep it below like 1.5, or if I could get it to like 1 second between like bubbles, because in my mind, that translates really nicely to something like WebGrid, where I know if I can hit a target one every second, that I'm doing real, real well.
There you go. That's the way to get a score on the calibrations, like the speed.
Yeah.
How quickly can you get from bubble to bubble?
Yeah.
So there's the open loop, and then it goes to the closed loop. And the closed loop can already start giving you a sense because you're getting feedback of like how good the model is.
Yeah. So closed loop is when I first get cursor control, and how they've described it to me, someone who does not understand this stuff. I am the dumbest person in the room every time I'm with any of these guys.
Humility, I appreciate
it. Is that I am closing the loop. So I am actually now the one that is like finishing the loop of whatever this loop is. I don't even know what the loop is. They've never told me. They just say there is a loop, and at one point it's open and I can't control, and then I get control and it's closed. So I'm finishing the loop.
So how long the calibration usually take? You said like 10, 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, they're trying to get that number down pretty low. That's what we've been working on a lot recently, is getting that down as low as possible. So that way, if this is something that people need to do on a daily basis, or if some people need to do on a like every other day basis or once a week, they don't want people to be sitting in calibration for long periods of time. I think they wanted to get it down 7 minutes or below, at least where we're at right now. It'd be nice if you never had to do calibration. So we'll get there at some point, I'm sure, the more we learn about the brain. And I think that's, the dream. I think right now, for me to get like really, really good models, I'm in calibration 40 or 45 minutes. And I don't mind. Like I said, they always feel really bad, but if it's going to get me a model that can like break these records on WebGrid, I'll stay in it for flipping 2 hours.
Let's talk business. So WebGrid. I saw a presentation where Bliss said by March, you selected 89,000 targets in WebGrid. Can you explain this game? What is WebGrid, and what does it take to be a world-class performer in WebGrid as you continue to break world records?
Yeah.
It's like a gold medalist talk. Well,
yeah, I'd like to thank exactly. Everyone who's helped me get here, my coaches, my parents, for driving me to practice every day at 5 a.m. I'd like to thank God, and just overall my dedication to my craft.
The interviews with athletes are always like that exact. Yeah. It's like that template. So WebGrid is a grid cells.
It's literally just a grid. They can make it as big or small as you can make a grid. A single box on that grid will light up and you go and click it. And it is a way for them to benchmark how good a BCI is. So it's, pretty straightforward. You just click targets.
Only one blue cell appears and you're supposed to move the mouse to there and click on it.
So I like playing on like bigger grids because the bigger the grid, the like more BPS, it's bits per second that you get every time you click one. So I'll say I'll play on like a 35 by 35 grid, and then one of those little squares, cell, call it target, whatever, will light up, and you move the cursor there and you click it, and then you do that forever.
And you've been able to achieve at first 8 bits per second, and you've recently broke that.
Yeah, I'm at 8.5 right now. I would have beaten that literally the day before I came to Austin, but I had like a 5-second lag right at the end, and I just had to wait until the latency calmed down, and then I kept clicking. But I was at like 8.01 and then 5 seconds of lag. And then the next like 3 targets I clicked all stayed at 8.01. So if I would have been able to click during that time of lag, I probably would have hit, I don't know, I might have hit 9. So I'm there. I'm really close. And then this whole Austin trip has really gotten in the way of my WebGrid playing ability.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
So that's all you're thinking about right now?
Yeah, I know. I want to do better.
At 9.
I want to do better. I want to hit 9. I know 9 is very, very achievable. I'm right there. I think 10 I could hit maybe in the next month. Like I could do it probably in the next few weeks if I really push.
I think you and Elon are basically the same person, because last time I did a podcast with him, he came in extremely frustrated that he can't beat Uber Lilith as a druid. That was like a year ago, I think. Yeah. I forget, like solo.
Yeah.
And I could just tell there's some percentage of his brain the entire time was thinking like, I wish I was right now attempting.
Yeah. I think he did it that
He did it that night.
Yeah.
He stayed up and did it that night.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in a fundamental way, it's really inspiring. And what you're doing is inspiring in that way, because I mean, it's not just about the game. Everything you're doing there has impact. By striving to do well on WebGrid, you're helping everybody figure out how to create the system all along, like the decoding, the software, the hardware, the calibration, all of it, how to make all of that work so you can do everything else really well.
Yeah, it's just really fun.
Well, that's part of the thing, is like making it fun.
Yeah, it's addicting. I've joked about like what they actually did when they went in and put this thing in my brain. They must have flipped a switch to make me more susceptible to these kinds of games, to make me addicted to like WebGrid or something.
Yeah.
Do you know Bliss's high score?
Yeah, he said like 14 or something.
17.
Oh boy.
17.1 or something. 17.01.
17 on the dot. 17.01.
Yeah.
He told me he like does it on the floor with peanut butter and he like fasts. It's weird. It sounds like cheating. Sounds like performance enhancing.
Nolan, like the first time Nolan played this game, he asked, how good are we at this game? And I mean, I think you told me right then you're gonna try to beat me.
I'm gonna get there someday.
Yeah,
I think
I fully believe you.
I think I can.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. So I've been playing first off with the dwell cursor, which really hampers my WebGrid playing ability. Basically, I have to wait 0.3 seconds for every click.
Oh, so you can't do the click. So you have to. So you click by dwelling. Mm-hmm. You said 0.3?
0.3 seconds, which sucks. It really slows down how much I'm able to, like how high I'm able to get.
Yeah.
I still hit like 50. I think I hit like 50 something net trials per minute in that, which was pretty good. Because I'm able to like, there's one of the settings is also like how slow you need to be moving in order to initiate a click, to start a click. So I can tell sort of when I'm on that threshold to start initiating a click just a bit early. So I'm not fully stopped over the target when I go to click. I'm doing it like on my way to the targets a little to try to time it just right.
Wow. Yeah. So you're slowing down.
Yeah, just a hair right before the targets.
This is like elite performance. Oh, okay. But that's still, it sucks that there's a ceiling of the 0.3.
Well, I can get down to 0.2 and 0.1. 0.1's what and I've played with that a little bit too. I have to adjust a ton of different parameters in order to play with 0.1, and I don't have control over all of that on my end yet. It also changes like how the models are trained. Like if I train a model, like in WebGrid, like I bootstrap on a model, which basically is them training models as I'm playing WebGrid, based off of like the WebGrid data that so like if I play WebGrid for 10 minutes, they can train off that data specifically in order to get me a better model. If I do that with 0.3 versus 0.1, the models come out different. The way that they interact it's just much, much different. So I have to be really careful. I found that doing it with 0.3 is actually better in some ways, unless I can do it with 0.1 and change all of the different parameters. Then that's more ideal because obviously 0.3 is faster than 0.1. So I could get there. I can get there.
Can you click using your brain?
For right now, it's the hover clicking with the dwell cursor. Before all the thread retraction stuff happened, we were calibrating clicks, left click, right click. That was my previous ceiling before I broke the record again with the dwell cursor was, I think, on a 35 by 35 grid with left and right click. And you get more BPS, more bits per second using multiple clicks because it's more difficult.
Oh, because what is it? You're supposed to do either a left click or a right click.
Yes.
Is it different color or something like this?
Yeah, blue
Cool.
targets for left click,
Cool.
orange targets for right click is what they had done.
Got it.
So my previous record of 7.5
was with
the blue and the orange targets, yeah. Which I think if I went back to that now, doing the click calibration, I would be able to, and being able to like initiate clicks on my own, I think I would break that 10 ceiling like in a couple days max. Like,
yeah, you would start making Bliss nervous about his 17.
I mean, he
whatever.
should
Why do you
be.
think we haven't given him the?
Exactly. So what did it feel like with the retractions, that there is some of the threads retracted?
It sucked. It was really, really hard. The day they told me was the day of my big Neuralink tour at their Fremont facility. They told me like right before we went over there. It was really hard to hear. My initial reaction was, all right, go in, fix it. Like go in, take it out and fix it. The first surgery was so easy. Like I went to sleep. A couple hours later, I woke up and here we are. I didn't feel any pain, didn't take like any pain pills or anything. So I just knew that if they wanted to, they could go in and put in a new one like next day if that's what it took. Because I wanted it to be better, and I wanted not to lose the capability. I had so much fun playing with it for a few weeks, for a month. I had like it had opened up so many doors for me. It had opened up so many more possibilities that I didn't want to lose it after a month. I thought it would have been a cruel twist of fate if I had gotten to see the view from like the top of this mountain and then have it all come crashing down after a month. And I knew, like, say the top of the mountain, but how I saw it was I was just now starting to climb the mountain, and there was so much more that I knew was possible. And so to have all of that be taken away was really, really hard. But then on the drive over to the facility, I don't know, like 5-minute drive, whatever it is, I talked with my parents about it. I prayed about it. I was just like, I'm not going to let this ruin my day. I'm not going to let this ruin this amazing like tour that they have set up for me. Like, I want to go show everyone how much I appreciate all the work they're doing. I want to go like meet all of the people who have made this possible, and I want to go have one of the best days of my life. And I did, and it was amazing, and it absolutely was one of the best days I've ever been privileged to experience. And then for a few days, I was pretty down in the dumps. But for like the first few days afterwards, I was just like, I didn't know if it was ever going to work again. And then I made the decision that even if I lost the ability to use the Neuralink, even if I lost out on everything to come, if I could keep giving them data in any way, then I would do that. If I needed to just do like some of the data collection every day or body mapping every day for a year, then I would do it. Because I know that everything I'm doing helps everyone to come after me. And that's all I wanted. I guess the whole reason that I did this was to help people. And I knew that anything I could do to help, I would continue to do. Even if I never got to use the cursor again, then, I was just happy to be a part of it. and everything that I had done was just a perk. It was something that I got to experience, and I know how amazing it's going to be for everyone to come after me. So might as well just keep trucking along, you know?
Well, that said, you were able to work your way up to get the performance back. So this is like going from Rocky 1 to Rocky 2. So when did you first realize that this is possible, and what gave you sort of the strength, the motivation, the determination to do it, to increase back up and beat your previous record?
Yeah, it was within a couple weeks. Like
Again, this feels like I'm interviewing an athlete. This is great. I like to thank my parents.
The road back was long and hard, fraught with many difficulties. There were dark days. It was a couple weeks, I think, and then there was just a turning point. I think they had switched how they were measuring the neuron spikes in my brain, like the Bliss, help me out.
Yeah, the way in which we were measuring the behavior of individual neurons.
Yeah.
So we're switching from sort of individual spike detection to something called spike band power, which if you watch the previous segments with either me or DJ, you probably have some context.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So when they did that, it was kind of like light over the head, like light bulb moment, like, oh, this works. And this seems like we can run with this. And I saw the uptick in performance immediately. Like I could feel it when they switched over. I was like, this is better. Like this is good. Like everything up till this point for the last few weeks, last like whatever 3 or 4 weeks, because it was before they even told me, like everything before this sucked. Like let's keep doing what we're doing now. And at that point, it was not like, oh, I know I'm still only at like, say in WebGrid terms, like 4 or 5 BPS compared to my 7.5 before. But I know that if we keep doing this, then like I can get back there. And then they gave me the dwell cursor, and the dwell cursor sucked at first. It's obviously not what I want, but it gave me a path forward to be able to continue using it and hopefully to continue to help out. And so I just ran with it, never looked back. Like I said, I'm just kind of person, I roll with the punches anyway. So
what was the process? What was the feedback loop on the figuring out how to do the spike detection in a way that would actually work well for Nolan?
Yeah, it's a great question. So maybe just to describe first how the actual update worked. It was basically an update to your implant. So we just did an over-the-air software update to his implant, same way you'd update your Tesla or your iPhone. And that firmware change enabled us to record sort of averages of populations of neurons nearby an individual electrode. So we have sort of less resolution about which individual neuron is doing what, but we have a broader picture of what's going on nearby an electrode overall. And that feedback loop, I mean, basically, as Nolan described it, was immediate when we flipped that switch. I think the first day we did that, you hit 3 or 4 BPS right out of the box. And that was a light bulb moment for, okay, this is the right path to go down. And from there, there's a lot of feedback around like how to make this useful for independent use. So what we care about ultimately is that you can use it independently to do whatever you want. And to get to that point, it required us to re-engineer the UX, as you talked about with the dwell cursor, to make it something that you can use independently without us needing to be involved all the time. And this is obviously the start of this journey still. Hopefully we get back to the places where you're doing multiple clicks and using that to control much more fluidly everything and much more naturally the applications that you're trying to interface with.
And most importantly, get that WebGrid number up.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So how's on the hover click, do you accidentally click stuff sometimes?
Yep.
Like how hard is it to avoid accidentally clicking?
I have to continuously keep it moving, basically. So like I said, there's a threshold where it will initiate a click. So if I ever drop below that, it'll start, and I have 0.3 seconds to move it before it clicks anything. Okay. And if I don't want it to ever get there, I just keep it moving at a certain speed and like just constantly like doing circles on screen, moving it back and forth to keep it from clicking stuff. I actually noticed a couple weeks back that when I was not using the implant, I was just moving my hand back and forth or in circles. Like I was trying to keep the cursor from clicking, and I was just doing it like while I was trying to go to sleep. And I was like, okay, this is a problem.
To avoid the clicking. I guess, does that create problems like when you're gaming, accidentally click a thing? Like,
yeah, it happens in chess.
Nice.
I've lost a number of games because I'll accidentally click something.
I think the first time I ever beat you was because of an
Yeah,
accidental click.
misclick. Yeah,
It's a nice excuse, right?
yeah,
You can
it
always,
is. It's
anytime you
great.
lose, you could
It's
just say,
perfect.
that
Yeah,
was accidental.
yeah.
You said the app improved a lot from version 1 when you first started using it. It was very different. So, can you just talk about the trial and error that you went through with the team? Like 200 plus pages of notes. Like, what's that process like of
Yeah.
going back and forth and working together to improve the thing?
It's a lot of me just using it like day in and
Yeah.
day out and saying, like, hey, can you guys do this for me? Like, give me this. I want to be able to do that. I need this. I think a lot of it just doesn't occur to them maybe until someone is actually using the app, using the implant. It's just something that they just never would have thought of, or it's very specific to even like me, maybe what I want. It's something I'm a little worried about with the next people that come is, you know, maybe they will want things much different than how I've set it up or what the advice I've given the team. And they're going to look at some of the things they've added for me. I'm like, that's a dumb idea. Like, why would he ask for that? Um, and so I'm really looking forward to get the next people on because I guarantee that they're going to think of things that I've never thought of. And they're going to think of improvements. I'm like, wow, that's a really good idea. Like, I wish I would have thought of that. And then they're also going to give me some pushback about like, yeah, what you are asking them to do here, that's a bad idea. Let's do it this way. And I'm more than happy to have that happen. But it's just a lot of like, different interactions with different games or applications, the internet, just with the computer in general. There's tons of bugs that end up popping up left, right, center. So it's just me trying to use it as much as possible and showing them what works and what doesn't work and what I would like to be better. And then they take that feedback and they usually create amazing things for me. They solve these problems in ways I would have never imagined. They're so good at everything they do. Um, and so I'm just really thankful that I'm able to give them feedback and they can make something of it. Because a lot of my feedback is like really dumb. It's just like, I want this. Please do something about it. And they'll come back and super well thought out. And it's way better than anything I could have ever thought of or implemented myself. So they're just great. They're really, really cool.
As the BCI community grows, would you like to hang out with the other folks with Neuralinks? Like what relationship, if any, would you want to have with them? Because you said like they might have a different set of
Mhm.
like ideas of how to use the thing.
Yeah.
Would you be intimidated by their web grid performance?
No,
Compete?
I hope day one they like wipe the floor with me. I hope they beat it, um, and they crush it. Double it if they can. Just because on one hand, it's only going to push me to be better, because I'm super competitive. I want other people to push me. I think that is important for anyone trying to achieve greatness is they need other people around them who are going to push them to be better. And I even made a joke about it on X once, like once the next people get chosen, like cue buddy cop music. Like I'm just excited to have other people to do this with and to like share experiences with. I'm more than happy to interact with them as much as they want. I'm more than happy to give them advice. I don't know what kind of advice I could give them, but if they have questions, I'm more than happy.
What advice would you have for the next participant in the clinical trial?
That they should have fun with this, because it is a lot of fun, and that I hope they work really, really hard because it's not just for us; it's for everyone that comes after us. And come to me if they need anything and to go to Neuralink if they need anything. Man, Neuralink moves mountains. Like they do absolutely anything for me that they can. And it's an amazing support system to have. It puts my mind at ease, for like so many things that I have had like questions about, or so many things I want to do. And they're always there. And that's really, really nice. And so I would tell them not to be afraid to go to Neuralink with any questions that they have, any concerns, anything that they're looking to do with this, and any help that Neuralink is capable of providing, I know they will. And I don't know, just work your ass off, because it's really important that we try to give our all to this.
So have fun and work hard.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe that's what I'll just start saying to people. Have fun, work hard.
Now you're a real pro athlete. Just keep it short. Maybe it's good to talk about what you've been able to do now that you have a Neuralink implant, like the freedom you gain from this way of interacting with the outside world. Like, you play video games all night, and you do that by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of freedom. Can you speak to that freedom that you gain?
Yeah, it's what all, I don't know, people in my position want. They just want more independence. The more load that I can take away from people around me, the better. If I'm able to interact with the world without using my family, without going through any of my friends, like needing them to help me with things, the better. If I'm able to sit up on my computer all night and not need someone to like sit me up, say like on my iPad, like in a position where I can use it, and then have to have them wait up for me all night until I'm ready to be done using it. Like that, it takes a load off of all of us, and it's really like all I can ask for. It's something that, I could never thank Neuralink enough for, and I know my family feels the same way. Just being able to have the freedom to do things on my own at any hour of the day or night, it means the world to me. And I don't know.
When you're up at 2 a.m. playing WebGrid by yourself,
Yeah.
I just imagine like it's darkness and there's just a light glowing and you're just focused. What's going through your mind? Or are you like in a state of flow where it's like the mind is empty, like those like Zen masters?
Yeah. Generally, it is me playing music of some sort. I have a massive playlist, and so I'm just like rocking out to music. And then it's also just like a race against time, because I'm constantly looking at how much battery percentage I have left on my implant. Like, all right, I have 30%, which equates to, X amount of time, which means I have to break this record in the next, hour and a half, or else it's not happening tonight. And so it's a little stressful when that happens. When it's above 50%, I'm like, okay, like I got time. And it starts getting down to 30 and then 20. It's like, all right, 10%, a little pop-up's going to pop up right here, and it's going to really screw my WebGrid flow. It's going to tell me that, like there's like the low battery pop-up comes up, and I'm like, it's really going to screw me over. So if I'm going to break this record, I have to do it in the next like 30 seconds, or else that pop-up's going to get in the way, like cover my WebGrid. And then after that, I go click on it, go back into WebGrid, and I'm like, all right, that means I have, 10 minutes left before this thing's dead. That's what's going on in my head, generally, that and whatever song is playing. And I just want to break those records so bad. Like, it's all I want when I'm playing WebGrid. It has become less of like, oh, this is just a leisurely activity. Like, I just enjoy doing this because it just feels so nice and it puts me at ease. It is no. Once I'm in WebGrid, you better break this record, or you're going to waste like 5 hours of your life right now. And I don't know. It's just fun. It's fun, man.
Have you ever tried WebGrid with like 2 targets and 3 targets? Can you get higher BPS with that?
Can you do that?
You mean like different color targets, or you mean
get multiple targets? Yeah, or does that change the thing?
Yeah, so BPS is a log of number of targets times correct minus incorrect divided by time. And so you can think of like different clicks as basically doubling the number of active targets.
Got it.
So you basically higher BPS, the more options there are, the more difficult the task. And there's also like Zen mode you've played in before, which is like infinite canvas.
It covers the whole screen with a grid, and I don't know
what. Yeah. And so you can go like that's insane.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it because it didn't show BPS. So like Oh
yeah.
I had them put in a giant BPS in the background, so now it's like the opposite of Zen mode. It's like super hard mode. Like just metal mode if it's just like a giant number in the back counting.
We should
It's like,
rename that. Metal mode is a much better name.
mode.
So you also play Civilization 6.
I love Civ 6, yeah.
Usually go with Korea.
I do. Yeah. So the great part about Korea is they focus on like science tech victories, which was not planned. Like I've been playing Korea for years, and then all of the Neuralink stuff happened. So it kind of aligns. But what I've noticed with tech victories is if you can just rush tech, rush science, then you can do anything. Like at one point in the game, you will be so far ahead of everyone technologically that you will have like musketmen, infantrymen, planes sometimes, and people will still be fighting with like bows and arrows. And so if you want to win a domination victory, you just get to a certain point with the science and then go and wipe out the rest of the world. Or you can just take science all the way and win that way. And you're going to be so far ahead of everyone because you're producing so much science that it's not even close. I've accidentally won in different ways just by focusing on science.
Accidentally won by focusing on science.
I was playing only science, obviously, like just science all the way, just tech, and I was trying to get like every tech in the tech tree and stuff, and then I accidentally won through a diplomatic victory, and I was so mad. I was so mad because it just like ends the game one turn. It was like, oh, you won, you're so diplomatic. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I should have declared war on more people or something. It was terrible, but you don't need like giant civilizations with tech, especially with Korea. You can keep it pretty small. So I generally just, get to a certain military unit and put them all around my border to keep everyone out. And then I will just build up. So very isolationist.
Nice.
Yeah.
And just work on the science and the tech.
That's it.
You're making it sound so fun.
It's so much fun.
And I also saw a Civilization 7 trailer.
Oh man, I'm so pumped.
And that's probably coming out.
Come on, Civ 7, hit me up. I'll alpha, beta test, whatever.
Wait, well, when is it coming out? In
2025.
Next year, yeah. What other stuff would you like to see improved about the Neuralink app and just the entire experience?
I would like to, like I said, get back to the like click on demand, like the regular clicks. That would be great. I would like to be able to connect to more devices. Right now, it's just the computer. I'd like to be able to use it on my phone or use it on different consoles, different platforms. I'd like to be able to control as much stuff as possible, honestly. Like an Optimus robot would be pretty cool. That would be sick if I could control an Optimus robot. The Link app itself, it seems like we are getting pretty dialed in to what it might look like down the road. Seems like we've gotten through a lot of what I want from it, at least. The only other thing I would say is like more control over all the parameters that I can tweak with my like cursor and stuff. There's a lot of things that go into how the cursor moves in certain ways. And I have, I don't know, like 3 or 4 of those parameters, and there
like
might
gain and friction and all
gain,
that.
friction, yeah. And there's maybe double the amount of those with just like velocity and then with the actual dwell cursor. So I would like all of it. I want as much control over my environment as possible. Especially
so you want like advanced mode, like in like there's menus, usually there's basic mode, and you're like one of those folks, like
I go
the power
everything.
user, advanced.
Yeah. That's
Got it.
that's what I want. I want as much control over this as possible. So yeah, that's really all I can ask for. Just give me everything.
Has speech been useful? Like just being able to talk also in addition to everything else?
Yeah, you mean like while I'm using it?
While you're using it, like speech to text?
Oh yeah.
Or do you type, or like, because there's also a keyboard?
Yeah,
really
yeah.
Nice.
So there's a virtual keyboard. That's another thing I would like to work more on, is finding some way to type or text in a different way. Right now it is like a dictation basically and a virtual keyboard that I can use with the cursor. But we've played around with like finger spelling, like sign language finger spelling. And that seems really promising. So I have this thought in my head that it's going to be a very similar learning curve that I had with the cursor, where I went from attempted movement to imagined movement at one point.
Mhm.
I have a feeling, this is just my intuition, that at some point I'm going to be doing finger spelling and I won't need to actually attempt to finger spell anymore, that I'll just be able to think the like letter that I want and it'll pop up.
That would be epic.
Yeah. And
That's
not just,
challenging. Though.
yeah.
That's hard. That's a lot of work for you to kind of take that leap, but that would be awesome.
And then like going from letters to words is another step. Like you would go from, right now it's finger spelling of like just the sign language alphabet. But if it's able to pick that up, then it should be able to pick up like the whole sign language, like language. And so then if I could do something along those lines, or just the sign language spelled word, if I can, spell it at a reasonable speed and it can pick that up, then I would just be able to think that through and it would do the same thing. I don't see why not. After what I saw with the cursor control, I don't see why it wouldn't work, but we'd have to play around with it more.
What was the process in terms of like training yourself to go from attempted movement to imagined movement?
Yeah.
How long did that take? So like how long would this kind of process take?
Well, it was a couple weeks before it just like happened upon me. But now that I know that that was possible, I think I could make it happen with other things. I think it would be much, much simpler.
Would you get an upgraded implant device?
Sure. Absolutely. Whenever they'll let me.
So you don't have any concerns for you with the surgery experience. All of it was like no regrets.
No.
So everything's been good so far.
Yep.
You just keep getting upgrades.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I've seen how much it's impacted my life already.
Yeah.
And I know that everything from here on out is just going to get better and better. So I would love to. I would love to get the upgrade.
What future capabilities are you excited about? Sort of beyond this kind of telepathy, is vision interesting? So for folks who, for example, who are blind, so Neuralink enabling people to see, or for speech.
Yeah, there's a lot that's very, very cool about this. I mean, we're talking about the brain, so there's like this is just motor cortex stuff. There's so much more that can be done. The vision one is fascinating to me. I think that is going to be very, very cool. To give someone the ability to see for the first time in their life would just be, I mean, it might be more amazing than even helping someone like me. Like that just sounds incredible. The speech thing is really interesting. Being able to have some sort of like real time translation and cut away that language barrier would be really cool. Any sort of like actual impairments that it could solve, like with speech, would be very, very cool. And then also there are a lot of different disabilities that all originate in the brain. And you would be able to hopefully be able to solve a lot of those. I know there's already stuff to help people with seizures that can be implanted in the brain. This would do, I imagine, the same thing. And so you could do something like that. I know that, even someone like Joe Rogan has talked about the possibilities with being able to stimulate the brain in different ways. I'm not sure what, like how ethical a lot of that would be. That's beyond me, honestly. But I know that there is a lot that can be done when we're talking about the brain and being able to go in and physically make changes to help people or to improve their lives. So I'm really looking forward to everything that comes from this. And I don't think it's all that far off. I think a lot of this can be implemented within my lifetime, assuming that I live a long life.
What you were referring to is things like people suffering from depression or things of that nature potentially getting help.
Yeah. Flip a switch like that, make someone happy. I think Joe has talked about it more in terms of like, you want to experience like what a drug trip feels like. Like you want to experience what it'd be like to be on,
of course.
Mushrooms or something like that, DMT. Like you can just flip that switch in the brain.
Yeah.
My buddy Bane has talked about being able to like wipe parts of your memory and re-experience things that, like, for the first time, like your favorite movie or your favorite book, like just wipe that out real quick and then re-fall in love with Harry Potter or something. I told him, I was like, I don't know how I feel about like people being able to just wipe parts of your memory. That seems a little sketchy to me. He's like, they're already doing it. So
Sounds legit.
yeah.
I would love memory replay. Just like actually like high resolution replay of old memories.
Yeah. I saw an episode of Black Mirror about that once. I don't think I want it.
Yeah, so Black Mirror always kind of considers the worst case, which is
Yeah.
important. I think people don't consider the best case or the average case enough. I don't know what it is about us humans. We want to think about the worst possible thing.
Yeah.
We love drama.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this new technology going to kill everybody? We just love that.
Well,
We get like, yes, let's
yeah.
watch.
Hopefully people don't think about that too much with me. It'll ruin a lot of my plans.
Yeah, I assume you're gonna have to take over
Yeah.
the world. I mean, I love your Twitter. You tweeted, I'd like to make jokes about hearing voices in my head since getting the Neuralink, but I feel like people would take it the wrong way. Plus, the voices in my head told me not to.
Yeah.
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 Please never stop. So you were talking about Optimus. Is that something you would love to be able to do to control the robotic arm or the entirety of Optimus?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Absolutely.
You think there's something like fundamentally different about just being able to physically interact with the world?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. This, I know another thing with like being able to like give people the ability to like feel sensation and stuff too by going in with the brain and having the Neuralink maybe do that. That could be something that could be transferred through the Optimus as well. Like there's all sorts of really cool interplay between that, and then also like you said, just physically interacting. I mean, 99% of the things that I can't do myself, obviously I need a caretaker for, someone to physically do things for me. If an Optimus robot could do that, like I could live an incredibly independent life and not be such a burden on those around me. And it would change the way people like me live, at least until whatever this is gets cured. But being able to interact with the world physically like that would just be amazing. And they're not just like for having it be a caretaker or something, but something like I talked about, just being able to read a book. Imagine an Optimus robot just being able to hold a book open in front of me, like get that smell again. I might not be able to feel it at that point. Or maybe I could again with the sensation and stuff, but there's something different about reading like a physical book than staring at a screen or listening to an audiobook. I actually don't like audiobooks. I've listened to a ton of them at this point, but I don't really like them. I would much rather like read a physical copy.
So one of the things you would love to be able to experience is opening the book, bringing it up to you,
Yeah.
and to feel the touch of the paper.
Yeah. Oh man, the touch, the smell. I mean, it's just something about the words on the page, and they've replicated that page color on like the Kindle and stuff. Yeah, it's just not the same. Yeah, so just something as simple as that.
So one of the things you miss is touch.
I do. Yeah. A lot of things that I interact with in the world, like clothes or literally any physical thing that I interact with in the world, a lot of times what people around me will do is they'll just come like rub it on my face. They'll like lay something on me so I can feel the weight. They will rub, a shirt on me so I can feel fabric. Like there's something very profound about touch, and it's something that I miss a lot, and something I would love to do again. We'll see.
What would be the first thing you do with a hand that can touch? Give your mom a hug after that, right?
Yeah, I know. It's one thing that I've asked like God for basically every day since my accident, was just being able to like one day move, even if it was only like my hand, so that way like I could squeeze my mom's hand or something, just to like show her that like how much I care and how much I love her and everything. Something along those lines. Being able to just interact with the people around me, handshake, give someone a hug. I don't know, anything like that. Being able to help me eat, like I'd probably get really fat, which would be a terrible, terrible thing.
Also, be bliss and chess on a physical chessboard.
Yeah. I mean, there are just so many upsides, you know? And any way to find some way to feel like I'm bringing bliss down to my level,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's just such an amazing guy, and everything about him is just so above and beyond, that anything I can do to take him down a notch, I'm more than happy.
Yeah. Humble him a bit. He needs it.
Yeah.
Okay. As he's sitting next to me. Did you ever make sense of why God puts good people through such hardship?
Oh man. I think it's all about understanding how much we need God. And I don't think that there's any light without the dark. I think that if all of us were happy all the time, there would be, no reason to turn to God ever. I feel like there would be no concept of, good or bad. And I think that as much of like the darkness and the evil that's in the world, it makes us all appreciate the good and the things we have so much more. And I think, like when I had my accident, one of the first things I said to one of my best friends was, and this was within like the first month or two after my accident, I said, everything about this accident has just made me understand and believe that like God is real and that there really is a God, basically, and that like my interactions with him have all been, real and worthwhile. And he said, if anything, seeing me go through this accident, he believes that there isn't a God. And it's a very different reaction. But I believe that it is a way for God to test us, to build our character, to send us through trials and tribulations, to make sure that we understand how precious, he is, and the things that he's given us and the time that he's given us. And then to hopefully grow from all of that. I think that's a huge part of being here, is to not just, have an easy life and do everything that's easy, but to step out of our comfort zones and really challenge ourselves, because I think that's how we grow.
What gives you hope about this whole thing we have going on? Human civilization.
Oh man. I think people are my biggest inspiration. Even just being at Neuralink for a few months, looking people in the eyes and hearing their motivations for why they're doing this, it's so inspiring. And I know that they could be other places, at cushier jobs, working somewhere else, doing X, Y, or Z that doesn't really mean that much. But instead, they're here and they want to better humanity, and they want to better just the people around them, the people that they've interacted with in their life. They want to make better lives for their own family members who might have disabilities, or they look at someone like me and they say, I can do something about that, so I'm going to. And it's always been what I've connected with most in the world are people. I've always been a people person, and I love learning about people, and I love learning like how people developed and where they came from, and to see like how much people are willing to do for someone like me when they don't have to, and they're going out of their way to make my life better. It gives me a lot of hope for just humanity in general, how much we care and how much we're capable of when we all kind of get together and try to make a difference. And I know there's a lot of bad out there in the world, but there always has been and there always will be. And I think it shows human resiliency, and it shows what we're able to endure, and how much we just want to be there and help each other, and how much satisfaction we get from that. Because I think that's one of the reasons that we're here, is just to help each other. And I don't know, that always gives me hope, is just realizing that there are people out there who still care and who want to help.
And thank you for being one such human being and continuing to be a great human being through everything you've been through, and being an inspiration to many people, to myself, for many reasons, including your epic, unbelievably great performance on WebGrid. I will be training all night tonight to
Hey,
try
man, you
to
can
try
do
to
it.
catch
You
up.
can do it.
And I believe in you that you can, once you come back, so sorry to interrupt with the Austin trip. Once you come back, eventually beat Bliss.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I'm rooting for you. The
Thanks,
whole
man.
world is rooting for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you've done, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to this conversation with Nolan Arbaugh. And before that, with Elon Musk, DJ Saw, Matthew McDougall, and Bliss Chapman. To support this podcast, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, let me leave you with some words from Aldous Huxley in The Doors of Perception. We live together. We act on and react to one another. But always, and in all circumstances, we are by ourselves. The martyrs go hand in hand into the arena. They are crucified alone. Embraced, the lovers desperately try to fuse their insulated ecstasies into a single self-transcendence in vain. But its very nature, every embodied spirit is doomed to suffer and enjoy its solitude. Sensations, feelings, insights, fancies, all these are private and except through symbols and at second hand, incommunicable. We can pool information about experiences, but never the experiences themselves. From family to nation, every human group is a society of island universes. Thank you for listening and hope to see you next time.